The damage below ground is just as bad as it is above ground. This is a basement filled with water. Imagine the bacteria here.
More than a year of fighting taking its toll in eastern Ukraine as infrastructure falls into disrepair and some areas run dangerously short of clean drinking water. Poland starts payments to a former detainee of a secret CIA-run black site jail that operated inside Poland for years. Plus, how the ISIS militant group is forcing businesses and even brands to ditch their names because of associations with terror. 12 o'clock noon here in the Russian capital, and a very warm welcome to you from all of us here at RT International. I'm Rory Souchet with this world's top headlines. In comments to the German media, the Ukrainian president has said there is a pseudo-ceasefire in operation on the ground in eastern Ukraine.
Ukraine is paying a high price for this pseudo-truce. We will be fighting to the bitter end, to the last drop of blood, to defend our land.
Petro Poroshenko vowed earlier this week to keep fighting for Donetsk airport in clear violation of the Minsk agreement. The U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has since warned Poroshenko against inciting further conflict in the region. And the airport remains under the control of anti-government forces, and it's been the center of some of the conflict's most ferocious fighting. The Ukrainian army continues to shell the site, and the Donetsk militia says that's stopping them from recovering dead bodies from the area. And as RT's Murad Gazdiev found out, that's one of the most heart-wrenching of many problems being faced by citizens in eastern Ukraine.
The fighting here in East Ukraine has resulted not only in the obvious, and that is the horrendous damage, but also in what officials are warning could become a fully blown ecological catastrophe. As people have fled these parts to get away from the fighting, they've abandoned their homes to be taken over by Mother Nature. And for human beings, given the circumstances, that isn't always a good thing. As for why, well, we went to take a closer look. The problem really is compounded by the use of heavy weapons here in East Ukraine. It means infrastructure takes a lot of damage, water pipes, drainage systems, power lines, and the likes. Have a look at the size of that crater in this backyard. But wells in particular are very popular around these parts. The problem is, if left unused and without maintenance for too long, the water goes stagnant. It begins to smell, and it also becomes breeding ground for bacteria and disease.
It is entirely possible for microorganisms to develop there. This water cannot be used for anything. It must be pumped out and the area disinfected.
And it isn't just wells. The region is a warren of mining shafts and tunnels. Many of those have flooded, and there's only one place for the water to go. The damage below ground is just as bad as it is above ground. This is a basement, and it looks like for a while at least it doubled as a bomb shelter. Now it's filled with water, stagnant water that doesn't smell all too good. But imagine the bacteria here, and imagine having to clean up thousands of basements like this one. And it gets worse. Another major problem, and perhaps the most unpleasant one, is the issue of bodies buried under rubble. Now that summer is here, those bodies are beginning to decompose much quicker, and locals around Donetsk, around other cities in eastern Ukraine, are already calling in to complain about the smell. As a whole, the situation remains under control. No epidemics and little risk of such for now. Much like the broader situation in the region, it has the potential to get much worse. Murad Gazdiev, RT, from Donetsk in eastern Ukraine.
Poland has made a payment to one of two CIA detainees previously held and tortured on its soil. The move comes after Poland lost its appeal at the European Court of Human Rights. It was found guilty of allowing the CIA to torture people at a so-called black site inside Poland. We spoke to Ben Davis, who says it's only right those involved are brought to justice for those crimes.
Both the CIA and both the people who put this in place in Poland betrayed their legal obligation not to torture people. Now that they are made to look bad, they should have expected what happened when it came out, and inevitably these things come out in some way, shape, or form in a democratic society. They did enable torture. Torture is a top-level crime, and that people are to be held accountable, preferably by criminal prosecution, but at least, for the state at least, civil kinds of damages that are here. And the only person who's been betrayed in all of this are the ordinary people in all these countries, the ordinary citizens who count on their governments not to torture people, to comply with their obligations in international law or domestic law.
Yeah, the deep frustration is also being felt among some prominent people in Poland. Poland's former foreign minister says he's embarrassed the black site was made public. Warsaw and Washington long denied the compound even existed in Poland and that torture ever took place anywhere there. It was revealed last year following a U.S. Senate report which forced Barack Obama to admit what the CIA was doing inside Poland.
In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, we did some things that were wrong. We did a whole lot of things that were right, but we tortured some folks.
Just to remind you, the CIA's so-called enhanced interrogation techniques included waterboarding and different forms of prisoner humiliation.